All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is our review of the second week of the Play of the Hand class. The first week we talked about making a plan and how to count winners and losers. This week we talked about promotion and length as part of our making a plan. So let's go first to look at making a plan, because as I told you, that's kind of the class in a nutshell. Can everybody see the making the plan handout right now, the ABCs?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, just a reminder, what we're talking about are the ABCs. Oh, we got our books this week. So that's something very exciting, right? So, and remember, I explained to you that in the book uses the acronym PLAN, PLAN, for what we're talking about here with the ABCs. Same thing. It's even the exact same items in the same order, but they're just described a little bit differently. I prefer this ABC thing. You can look at the PLAN thing that's in the book and see that it's the same thing. So, whichever one you'd rather go by, it's not important. It's not like you have to know it as we go through, but I just don't want people to be confused about why I keep talking about ABCs and the book keeps talking about PLAN. This book was written by the same woman who came up with the ABC of the plan. So it's the same thing. I just want you to know that. Okay, so for making a plan for the ABCs, the first part is assess the situation. And assess the situation just means, what is our goal? How many tricks do we have to make our contract? You know, if it's 4 hearts, it's 10 tricks. 3 no trump, 9 tricks. 2 diamonds, 8 tricks. 1 no trump, one of the most difficult ones to make, is just 7 tricks. But if you're playing 1 no trump, it usually means that you and your partner don't have a fit and you don't have very many points, or else you wouldn't have stopped at 1 no trump. So 1 no trump is a little hard to make. Anyway, that requires a total of 7 tricks. So that's our goal. Whatever our contract says it is, that's what our goal is. And then we need to count the tricks that we have. And the difference between what we need to have and what we have gives us what we need to develop. Either winners we need to develop or losers we need to get rid of. You'll need to remember that when we're counting our tricks, our sure tricks, it's different as to whether we're counting from a no trump point of view or a suit point of view. If we're talking about it from a no trump point of view, we're looking at winners, because in no trump, the high cards make the difference. The high card is always going to win. Whereas in a suit contract, we count our losers, because although high cards do win in suit contracts, we have the additional factor of the trump suit. And the trump suit can beat the high card, and you have control mostly over the trump suit. So you can sometimes get rid of losers on by trumping, or by trumping in dummy, or by other suits that you have that you can get rid of losers on the other suits. So that's why we need to count losers on suits. We count winners when we count no trump. So usually you have 1 or 2 that need to be developed, either losers you need to get rid of or winners that you need to find. Once you've figured that out, what tricks you need, then you browse the checklist. Browsing the checklist, remember, there are really only 4 different things that you can do to either get rid of a loser or to develop a winner. And these are the same 4 things that are used by beginners and that are used by top bridge players alike. It's not like you need to find out a lot of other things. Now, the higher level bridge players are going to be doing a lot of different things around these 4 items. They may be ducking, they may be setting up in plays or squeeze plays. They may be doing a lot of different things that we won't learn about yet, and that it'll take you a while to get to that level in play of the hand to be able to use them. But for now, we're doing the same basic things that they're doing. So the first is the finesse, which we're going to talk about in detail next week. Then promotion and length, that's what we're going to focus on this week. And trumping and dummy, which is after finessing. So those are the four things that we can use. And then we need to worry about, well, what order do we need to do these things in? Nearly always we draw our trumps first. Draw the trump first. That's the first thing you need to do if you're in a trump suit, of course. You will draw the trump first. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's a reason not to. We'll get into one of those reasons when we're talking about the trump suit. But usually you draw the trump first. Then there's a couple of other things we need to remember. Play the high card from the short side first. That keeps us from getting stranded on the wrong side of our hand. The next one is develop the extra tricks early. If you don't develop the extra tricks early and you take your high cards first, then try to develop whatever suit you want to develop, you're leaving yourself unprotected in suits. So if you have something you need to develop, you usually need to develop that before you do anything else, except for drawing trumps. And then I love this one, be in the right place at the right time. Yes, that sounds easy, but that's kind of difficult. You need to keep an eye on where you need to be at all times. When you make your plan at the very beginning, that needs to be one of the things you need to think about. If you need to think about the idea that I need to get these losers in my hand trumped twice in the dummy, you need to make sure you can get back to your hand twice in order to play those. So these are things you need to be thinking about and that we're going to practice throughout the class. There's no exact way to tell you how to do that. It's just something you need to be aware of. Remember, we talked about the fact that this plan is not just something that we are kind of paying a little bit of attention to right now. It is something that you need to do every single time that you are playing the hand. The opening lead comes, then the dummy comes down, and as soon as the dummy comes down, you need to stop and make your plan for assessing the situation, browsing the checklist, and considering the order you need to do things in every single time. Now, occasionally you don't really need to do it, but you won't need to know when you need to do it and when you don't, unless you are always making the plan. Sometimes it's very quick. You just look, you count, you see, oh, I've got this, no problem. Sometimes you look and see, oh, I just need this one finesse. If it works, that's fine. Sometimes the plan is very simple, but occasionally it's not. And you need to be stopping and taking the time every time to do this, or you're going to miss those situations where you could have made the contract, but because you didn't make a plan, you went wrong from the very beginning and couldn't recover from it. So I really encourage you to do that. I know a lot of you are hesitant to do that because you feel like it's taking up too much time. And you know that we don't like to have a lot of hesitation and stuff any more than you have to have. But when you're starting out learning the game, this is something you have to do. And if you'll watch the top bridge players play sometimes, they do this. Now, it may not take them long to do this. Sometimes it takes them several minutes. You're sitting and waiting several minutes for a top player to figure out what their plan is. And that's what everybody does. So this is not something special that you do because you're in a beginning bridge class. This is something that you need to do now and forevermore. So I want to make sure that you're very familiar with this and you're doing this every single time that we go through. Okay, well then let's focus on promotion and length. Promotion and length. We started out talking about the fact that the high cards are very valuable. When you look at this particular first example that we have here, the king, queen, jack, 10, opposite the 5, 4, 3, 2, you can see that this is a valuable holding, right? You have the top cards except for the ace. As soon as the ace is gone, the other top cards that you have, the king, queen, jack, 10, the other three will move up. If you take the king to knock out the ace, your queen, jack, 10 are good. Sometimes when you play your king, the opponents don't play the ace. Then the king is good. Then you'll play your queen to try to knock out the ace. If they still don't play the ace, your queen has won a trick, and your jack and 10 are now the two highest cards. So no matter if they hold up or if they play the ace, you are in a good position. Now you're going to get to take one trick with this suit, and you will get to take the others in the suit. In this other holding, the queen, jack, 10 versus the 4, 3, 2, here it's not quite as good. You have to lose two tricks, the ace, king, but then your 10 will be good. Same thing here, the jack, 10, 9, 8. As soon as the ace, king, queen are gone, which I know in bridge that seems like a long time, but once those three are gone, then you will have a winning trick. Now, when we go back to thinking about making our plan, if we just looked at this suit in particular, if we just look at the jack 10, 9, 8 opposite the 5, 4, 3, 2, we just think to ourselves, I don't have any winners here, and move on. But when you're making your plan and you stop to think, you go, oh yeah, well, I lose the ace, king, queen. I do have a good trick here that I can count. That's going to be a winner for me, not a loser. So you need to be thinking about these as you're making your plan. You also need to remember that when the suit is divided unevenly, in these cases, they're divided evenly, but when they're divided unevenly, you need to play the high card from the short side first. This helps you stop from losing control of your situation. Let's look at this example right here. Sorry, all these messages keep popping up, drives me nuts. Okay, this example right here, you'll notice that you have in diamonds, you have the king, jack, 10, 9, 8, 2, opposite the queen, 4. You should play the queen, try to win with the queen first. So in other words, play a low card from the long side over to I'm sorry, wants me to buy something I already own.
You might be able to try the back button.
Yeah, I just closed that window though because it had the thing.
Yeah.
So hang on just a second. Let me bring this back. Okay, is this back on your screen? Can you see this now? That when it says when the suit is divided unevenly, play the high card from the short side first.
Yes.
You see that? Okay, good. All right. Let me see if I can keep from going to the Adobe paywall on this one. Okay, so I believe we were talking about we want to lead the 2 first towards the queen. And try to win from the short side first. We should try to take the queen because it's on the short side. You see, it is shorter than the other side where we have 6 cards. We only have 2 cards over here. So try to take the winner from the short side first. If they let you win the queen, fine. Then you will just lead the 4 back to the long side and then possibly win with the king.
I have a quick question. Would you do that if your short side was 7-4 or 8-4? Would you still lead to the higher card on the short side regardless of how high?
No, no, because the rule is play the high card, which is means a card that you have a hope of winning
But from the short side.
from the short side. If you don't have any cards that are able to win on
Okay.
the short side, then you don't need to worry about being over there. You just need to
Okay.
use your long side then.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so this keeps you from being stranded. Now, notice in this case, if we play the small one over here and let me try the back button as Michael suggested. Thank you, Michael. Okay, notice that if we play, they don't take the queen, we win with the queen. Or if we haven't, if we've managed not to be over here or to win with the queen or to be over here after we've gotten rid of the 4, we need a way to get back to the long side. And luckily, we do have a way to get back to the long side here because we happen to have the ace of clubs. So we can get back over there. If we did not have the club suit here and we won with the king first and then tried to lead a little suit to the queen, by the time we got over there, the 4 would be gone, both of them would be gone, and we'd have to use another suit to get back. Luckily, in this case, we do have another one available. The clubs, the ace of clubs can get us back. But that's why we make the rule when it's unevenly divided. In particular, make sure that you're playing the high card from the short side first. Okay, let's look at a full example here of, and this, by the way, is on, if you're looking at your book, is on page 40 in your book, because all of these examples are in your textbook. Let's look at the example here of a 3 no trump contract. The lead, opening lead, is the Queen of Hearts. We have to try to make 3 no trump, looking back and forth between this hand and this hand. Okay, if we try to make 3 no trump, that means that we need to have 9 tricks. We need to come up with 9 tricks. And since this is no trump, we're going to be looking at the winners that we have. So the first thing we're going to look at is spades. How many winners do we have there? We have 2 winners there. In hearts, how many winners do we have? We've got 2 winners in hearts, the ace and the king. In diamonds, how many winners do we have? Well, again, we have 2, the ace and the king. And then we come to, and so that's 6. 2, 2, and 2 is 6. Then we come down to clubs. In clubs, we don't have any sure tricks right away, but we see that as soon as we get rid of the ace, we can promote 3 tricks in this suit. So that means we have to play the club suit enough that we make them play their ace so that we get to take all the tricks that we're entitled to in clubs. So they have led the Queen of Hearts. We can win with either the king over here or the ace over here. It doesn't make too much difference because we have plenty of other suits that we have the ace and the king in. So we can win either place. This is an example of what I'm talking about, of where you have to worry about being in the right place at the right time. That, on this hand, doesn't make too much difference because we have winners on both sides. and we have entries on both sides. So we know that. So we worried about it, but then we decided, okay, it's taken care of for this hand. So they are going to lead the Queen of Hearts. We can take it on either side, but no matter where we take it, our next step is lead a club. Lead a club. And I don't care if you lead the club from over here, or if you lead the club from over here, but wherever, lead the club and knock out the ace. Now, they are likely not to play it the first time that you lead clubs, but that's okay. That means if you lead the king and they don't play the ace, your king won. Now you have one of the three tricks that you want to have in that suit. If you lead it again, you'll see that they are going to have to, this time, play the ace. Usually it's good not to play your ace right away, particularly in a no trump contract. You want to hold up and hope that their transportation gets messed up so they can't lead back and forth the way they want to. That's why they would hold up on the ace. They're hoping that it's going to mess up your transportation. But of course, in this case, there's nothing that can mess up your transportation. The only thing that can mess up this hand and cause you not to win this hand is if after you have taken the ace of hearts, you take the king of hearts and the ace and king of spades and the ace and king of diamonds, and then try to lead clubs. If you take your other high cards first, before you lead, knock out the ace of clubs, when they get to take the ace of clubs, which they will at some point, then they are going to lead spades or hearts or diamonds and get a lot more tricks in there, and you'll never get to cash your 3 club tricks that you need. So this is a perfect example of why you need to take your losses early. You have to lose to the ace of clubs. So there's no point in waiting to lose it. Lose it early before you lose control in your other suits. Okay, so that's promotion, and promotion is pretty clear. I think people can see promotion from the beginning because they can see the fact that in this suit, when you get rid of the ace, king, ace, the other 3 tricks, you've got 3 tricks in that suit. So those will work out for you. Length is sometimes a little bit harder to see, so let's talk about length then. And the first thing we need to talk about in length are, when we are talking about length, if we have 8 or 9 in a suit, that's what you need to look for. That's where you can come up with extra tricks in length. A lot of people miss this. If you're playing a no trump contract and you can see all the high cards, but then you still need a couple of tricks and you can't see how to get them, look to see, do you have a long suit? Do you have a suit that has 8 or more cards in it? If you do, and they're split reasonably, you may be able to make some extra tricks there. But to worry, for us to know whether or not this may work, we need to figure out, what can we expect the tricks to be? What can we expect the splits to be? So what can we expect as the number of tricks that we should be able to get? And this is the rule that we use to kind of think about what is the most likely split that we're going to get of the cards that are out. In other words, we have 8 cards, they've got 5. Are all 5 of those going to be in one hand? Or it's going to be 4 and 1? Is it going to be 3 and 2? What's the most likely thing for it to be? Well, the most likely thing for it to be is, if it's an even number out, they split unevenly, but as close to evenly as they can. So for instance, if you have 6 cards out, you have 7 and they have 6, they do not split 3-2, 3-3, usually. More often, they're going to split 4-2 as evenly as they can, but not exactly evenly. For odd numbers out, those split as evenly as possible. So if you have an 8-card suit, which means you have 5 cards out, the most likely split is going to be 3-2, as evenly as possible. Both of them split. The most likely split is as evenly as possible, except that with the even number out, it doesn't split exactly evenly. That is not the most likely split. Just off from that is the most likely. The next most likely is the even split. Here's a little chart here, and the same thing is in your book, that gives you an idea of the number of cards out, how they're most likely to split. Now, we don't even need to worry about these lower ones because we're not looking for length in those. But in these, if you are missing 3 cards, they're most likely to split 2-1. If you're missing 4 cards, they're most likely to split 3-1, not 2-2, but 3-1. And if you're missing 5 cards, which is when we have 8, they're most likely split 3-2. Another one we have frequently is if you have 6 cards out, you expect them to split 4-2, not 3-3. Now, while we're talking about all of this, we're talking about probabilities. And the probabilities that you need to remember the most are for 3 cards being out, and I would jot this down somewhere. If you are missing 3 cards in a suit, that means you have 10. You are most likely to get a 2-1 split, and that is 78% of the time. So 2-1, pretty likely when 3 cards are out, it's nearly 80% of the time, 78%. The other one, the 3-0 split, is only 20% of the time, 22 exactly. When you have 4 out, and having 4 out because you have 9 cards in a suit, and having 5 out because you have 5 cards in the suit, 8 cards in the suit, sorry, and 5 out because you have 8 cards. Those are the 2 most likely. So that's why I think you should try to kind of remember those, that when you are missing 4 cards, the 3-1, the most likely is 3-1, which we said, which is 50%. Just behind that is 2-2, which is 40%. And then just after that is 4-0, which what's left, about 10%. So the most likely 3-1 is 50%. You're going to get it, 50%. And it's going to be 2-2, 40% of the time. So nearly all the time, are you going to get either 3-1 or 2-2? For when you have 5 out, the most likely split is going to be 3-2, which is 67% of the time. So about 2/3 of the time, it is 3-2, and about 30% of the time, it's 4-1. So that takes care of about 80% of the time. You'll have either 3-2 or 4-1. It's very rare to get that 5-0 split, which is 4% of the time, although probably feels like a lot less rare. Feel like you get it all the time. I also, at last week's class, handed out this relevant percentages for bridge players. Now, this is way more than you need to know about any of this. I just think it's interesting. That's why you have to look at it, okay? So the first thing is the percentages of card division in 2 hidden hands, and that's what we're talking about here. If we have an 8-card suit, the 2 hands that we can't see, the opponents, have 5 cards somewhere. And this just tells you what the likely division is, just as I was just telling you. If there are 5 cards out, 3-2 is 68% of the time. I think of it as 70, about 70% of the time. 4-1 is about 1/3 of the time, and then it's unlikely that you'll get the 5-0 split. And you can see that for each of the number of ones out. The other interesting things, though, on this sheet are the probability of opponents roughing. If you have 2 cards out, the probability of them roughing on the 4th round is 100%, but the probability of them roughing on the 1st round is only about 50%, 48%. This shows the probability of them dropping. This just shows the probability of high cards in your hand. And I think it's interesting that see how beginning with 24 and up, you are not going to very likely to get 24 points in a hand. The probability of that is 0.06. Now I've gotten that 24 points in a hand, not that often. You know, it happens enough that it's not that unusual to me that I think, oh my God, I do think, oh, good, I've got 24 points in my hand. I have had 29 points in my hand one time in my life, one time. So I remember that I have had that. I have never had more than 29 points. So I have never had these 0.0002 or 0001. Obviously, you are most likely to get 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's an average hand, an average hand. And those come up around 8% of the time that you'll get one of those. So adding all those together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 60% of the time, you're going to have one of those levels. It also gives you the patterns here. 4432, 4333, and 5332. It gives you the likelihood of them here. And notice that that's 21 and 10 and 15. That's nearly 50% of the time you'll have one of those even distributions. That means that when you get a no trump hand of 15 to 17 points, about 50% of the time you also have the correct distribution. But 50% of the time you don't have the correct distribution to bid no trump. Over on the back of this sheet, it just shows the probabilities of a partnership having a fit. And this has to do with the law of total tricks, which we talked about in the class, beginning class. The law of total tricks tells us that if one partnership has a fit, the other partnership is likely to have a fit. And it tells us that everybody is likely to have an 8-card fit 46% of the time. It gives you the probability of having a fit with your partner if you have a single suit in your hand. So you have one long hand. And then the ones I think are really interesting are also these just miscellaneous bridge probabilities. The hands a person can receive are 635 trillion. So you getting just the hand that you have, the exact hand that you have, is very unlikely that you're going to get that exact hand ever again. The possible deals are so high that I can't even list them. And the possible auctions, I don't know if this is a grains of sand kind of thing, but we are never going to have the same auction with the same cards ever in your life. You are also never going to get 13 cards in a suit. Notice that that is 169 million to 1. 169 million to 1. That's less than the chance of you winning the lottery, which is something usually like 15 million to 1. So you are not going to get 13 cards in a suit. I have talked to 2 people that have said they had 13 cards in a suit. I don't believe them. So, it's kind of one of those apocryphal stories. It's more likely that you're going to get the ace, king, queen, jack, 10 in a suit. That's about 500 to 1. So that's not bad, right? You have more chance of getting this when you're playing poker because then you're only playing with 5 cards. We're playing with 13 cards. So we have less probability of getting it. Anyway, that is the probability sheet. I just think it's interesting, kind of, trivia. I play in a trivia team, so it makes sense that I'd be interested in that. All right, let's go back to our actual class, though. So we need to be worried about how they split. Wait, looking at the wrong hand. We need to worry about how they split. They're most likely to split unevenly if they're an even number out, and as evenly if possible as there is an odd number out. Okay, so let's look at some of these examples and see how we think these might split. Here is a hand where we have 9 cards in the suit. How many tricks should we be likely to get from this suit? Well, we should be able to get 6 tricks out of this suit. Notice that we have 9 cards in the suit. There are 4 cards out, 4 cards. And even if we know the most likely split for them is 3-1, which is about 50% of the time, 3-1. But in this case, it doesn't make any difference if they're 4-0 because we have the ace, king, queen, jack. So we can pull all 4 of their cards in just by playing our ace, king, queen, jack. So here we have a certainty, which is not often in bridge, but a certainty that we can take 6 tricks in this suit. Ace, king, queen, jack will pull in all 4 that they have. And once that has happened, the last 2, the longest 2 that we have in the suit, the 3 and the 2, are going to be good cards at that point because they will have no more cards. So our 3 and our 2 are good. Let's look at this other example. Here we have the ace, king, queen, 2. We only have 8 this time, so there are 5 out. The most likely split is 3-2. That split occurs about 70% of the time. It's actually 68% of the time. So if we get a regular split here of 3-2, we should be able to take 4 tricks in this suit. The ace, king, queen should knock out the 3 and the 2. No matter if the 3 is on one side and 2 is on the other, whichever way it is, it should knock out all of their tricks. If that happens, if it 80% of the time, 70% of the time it will happen, the ace, king, queen are going to knock them out, then your 2 will be good. If they are not split 3-2, but they are split 4-1, which happens about 30% of the time, a third of the time, then you will not be able to make that last card good because it is the lowest card in the suit. So whatever card they've got left is higher than your lower card. You notice you have the top 3 cards and you have the bottom 5 cards. So whatever is left is going to be in between there. Now they don't have to all be on one side. For instance, here we have the ace, king, queen, and as long as you play the high card from the short side first, our rule, you play the ace first, then you lead over, and so that you're able to take the king, queen, as long as they are split 3-3, which is not likely because here we only have 7 cards in a suit, right? See that? This is a 7-card suit. That means that 6 are out. When 6 are out, they're likely to split 4-2 58% of the time, 48% of the time. 35% of the time they'll be split 3-3. So that means that we could be able to drop them all, but we are unlikely to be able to do that. They are unlikely to be able to be split 3-3. They are more likely to be split 4-2, which means we'll have 3 tricks in this suit, but we're unlikely to get a 4th trick in this suit. Let's look at this one. This is a common one because frequently we're looking for an 8-card fit, right? And this is the magic fit. This is an 8-card fit, but there are 5 cards out. The most likely split for them, about 70% of the time, is 3-2. So if they are split 3-2, we'll play our ace, we'll play our king, we'll lose 1 and get the last card in. Then we will have a 3rd trick in the suit. So this trick is definitely worth 2 tricks and maybe worth a 3rd trick. Depends on how they're split. If they're split 4-1, no, we will only get 2 tricks in this suit. I want to skip on down to the idea of how you can develop length in a contract. Let me see here. This is a contract of 3, no trump. The opening lead is the 3 of spades. They led the 4th card down from their longest suit because they didn't have a sequence to lead from. Usually if we have touching cards in a high card sequence, we'll lead that. They led their 4th card down. We're playing 3 no trump. So if the 3 of spades is led, then we need to assess our situation here. We need to take 9 tricks. So let's look back and forth across our spades suit. Between the spades here and here, we have 3 tricks. Between hearts here and here, we have 2 tricks. Between diamonds on the 2 sides, we have no tricks. And by the way, there is a typo here. This is supposed to be a 7, not a 9. You see there are 2 9s in this diamond suit. But anyway, we have no tricks in diamonds, and we have 3 tricks in clubs. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tricks. We need 1 more trick. Where can we develop that 1 more trick? Well, the only chance we have to develop 1 more trick, you might think hearts because we just have 2 there, but in hearts, we've got 6. That means that 7 are out against us. We are unlikely to be able to get anything extra in hearts. That leaves diamonds as the only possibility of developing an extra trick. And the only way of developing the extra trick here is promotion's not going to work because we don't have any high cards. It's got to be length. So that means that we are going to have to lose to the ace, lose to the king, lose to the queen, and hope that that's all that we lose, that they are split 3-2, and we get a 4th trick. So they have led the 3 of spades. We are going to win one of the spade tricks and lead a diamond back. They're going to win the diamond trick. They're going to lead something else back. We'll win it, lead another diamond. They're going to win that. They're going to lead something else back. We'll win it. Then we lead the 3rd diamond, and we hope when we lead the 3rd diamond that we see one of the people is out, but the other person has the final one and can win with that final diamond. Then when they lead something back, your last diamond is your hand is now good, and you will win that trick. You have to look for these opportunities. You have to think to yourself, do I have any likelihood at all of winning a trick at all in this diamond suit? And the only thing that can happen is if you lose 3 and they are split 3-2, which is the most likely split, then you can win the 4th trick in that suit. Now, we've talked about the fact that you need to watch your transportation. The idea here is that we don't strand winners. We need to watch for the fact that, for instance, in this suit, we've got 8 cards in this suit. We're definitely winning 2. We could win a 3rd one if they are split 3-2, but that means we're going to have to be able to get back to this side of the equation, this hand, to get that 4th one, the 3rd trick after they win 2 tricks. So you need to think to yourself, I need to be able to get back to this hand, whatever that hand is. In this case, usually we put the dummy at the top. This dummy has the ace, king, 4, 3, 2. We can win 2 tricks there, but then we need to lose 1. So we need to make sure that we keep a good card over on this side so that we can get back over there and cash our final good trick in that suit. The same thing is true even here where we only have one sure winner. And we're probably going to have to lose at least two, if not three more. But the same thing holds true that if they are split 3-2, eventually this 3 should be good if you have enough patience for doing that. Okay, sometimes promotion and length can work together. For instance, in this case, we need to lose the ace before we can promote our king or queen, but then we have just a little card, not the 10 like we had earlier when we were looking at the example. But here we have a little card, but still, if these are split 3-2, you're going to lose the ace, but then you're to the king. Your king is going to lose to the ace, but then your queen and jack are still going to be good. And if they are split 3-2, then you are going to have a fourth card. The fourth card, the last card, is going to win. And actually, it will win over here in this hand because you have the two lowest cards there. You kind of have to think about this too. You know, if you're worried about getting from one side to the other, you need to think about the idea that, well, if I win and I've played my top cards first, that 4 is going to win. If you play from the bottom, though, this side is going to win because the 8 would be the one left, because traditionally we would play the lower ones up to the higher one, right? The same thing is true down here on this one. You have the king, queen, jack, 10. You have 8 cards, so 5 are out. They're most likely 70% of the time split 3-2. So you're most likely to lose the ace and king, but then have 3 winners in this suit. And that's hard to see because that looks like a little bitty loser suit, right? But that still should be 3 winners in the suit after you lose the ace and the king. Okay, the last thing that we talked about in this class was the fact that if you have choices about which suits to develop, which you don't often have the choice, but if you do have the choice, you want to pick whichever one is the most unevenly split suit or the longer suit. In this first example, we have 2 suits. We have 2 suits that are different lengths. They look the same, but they are different lengths. This one is just 7 cards. The other one is 8 cards. If we have to choose between a 7-card suit and an 8-card suit that have about the same strength, we're going to choose the 8-card suit. The reason we choose the 8-card suit is because the splits are better under 8 than they are under 7. We're going to get a 3-2 split most of the time, as opposed to a 4-2 split, which is what we're going to get most of the time with a 7-card suit. So we've got a better chance for a split here. If we have 2 equal length suits, like we do here, we want to choose the one that is most unevenly split, okay? Because both of these have 8 cards in them, but our chances of having them split 3-2, 70%, as we've been talking about 70% of the time. That means that about 70% of the time, if we get the 3-2 split here, then we're only going to be able to get one extra trick if they split 3-2. Because we'll play the ace, the king, we'll lose one, we'll have one left. In this one, though, we'll play the ace, the king, we'll lose one, then we have 2 left on that side. We'll have the 5 and the 2 left that will be good. So that's something to think about. You don't often come up with the ability to make that choice, but if you do have the choice, look for the ones that are the longer overall suit or the one that's the most unevenly split. Does anybody have any questions on anything that we've discussed today? Okay, then next week or next Saturday, we are going to talk about finesses, which are always everybody's favorite thing to talk about. They come up all the time. We need to learn how to use them, and we need to learn when not to use them because other things often work out better than finesses. Anyway, that's it for this week, and I will see y'all next Saturday.
Thank you.
Bye bye.